All right, Lillian, let's start looking at your essay. So, right away, I don't think there's any major grammar issues, so that's fine. But I will talk about is your hook. What do you think about killing a suffering loved one? So, one of the key things with your hook is to have an introduction, well, sorry, let me rephrase. One of the things is if you use a question as a way to start your essay, do it with one that's not a yes or no question. There's only a few instances where it kind of works as a yes or no. But what I'm noticing here, what do you think about killing a suffering loved one? Is this yes or no? It doesn't quite give us enough to get the reader thinking. And that's the problem with a yes or no question. Now, sorry, that's not even a yes or no question. It's just, what do you think? It's a little bit basic, but I understand what you're getting at, so let me show you a way that would make it better. This is from another classmate's paper. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. And even though there's some grammar issues here, if your closest relative was in pain and suffering and in your hands, you have the plug to end it. Would you pull it? That gets you a little bit more drawn in because it actually physically puts you in a situation. It's like, okay, you have the option. Are you going to pull the plug or are you not going to pull the plug? And that's a little bit better. But then as we get into this, I would get rid of this because this is your thesis. Just put that right at the end. But this background information on mercy killings are pretty good because you explain, well, this is how it's typically done. This is what we understand about it. And then you have people argue if it's ethical or if it's unethical. You know, these sorts of statements for argument papers are kind of cliche and overdone and a little bit basic. But the way that this would work, and I'm not a fan of it, is if you just, obviously you need your thesis right after, but if you just have your thesis follow right after and be like, well, mercy killing is ethical as evident through blank and blank, it would be better. So your thesis needs to be at the end of the introduction. I'm just writing this on your rubric right now. It needs to be at the end. Your middle is kind of okay, and you need a stronger hook. So as we move into your next body paragraph, so I'm never one to go through articles and be like, well, this would be better or whatever. As long as you show me evidence and analysis, it's fine. But as I look in here, so this is all evidence, which is good because you're talking about it. You don't really have the strongest topic sentence. I'm not sure what this paragraph is about reading it right away. So make something a little bit more specific about, have your topic sentence tie into a reason why it is ethical. Okay? So you have this evidence, and then this is a really strong sentence the more and more I look at it. It takes a lot of love to kill someone who's suffering. Oh, wrong who's. Who is instead of whose. This is like, whose suffering is it? It doesn't matter. Well, it does. I was making a reference. Ignore me. Point being, wrong whose. It takes a lot of love to kill someone who is suffering because on one hand you love them so dearly, and on the other you know they are in great pain. And I think that is a great way to really tie it in because I knew I had read this one somewhere, but it wasn't from the articles. And, you know, it just, I don't know, even when the judge says this to her, but your case is indeed exceptional. Your story is one that would move the hardest of hearts. That is, whoops, that's wrong. You were not supposed to see that. Doesn't matter. But this right here that you have is a really strong sentence. And then you tie it in. This is one example of how mercy killing is perfectly ethical because if he chose to end his life without help due to his disease, he would not be able to. Okay, there's a grammar concern. Perfectly ethical. So if he chose to end his life... Hold on, let me pause this so I can think about this for a second. I think the best way to make this better is to swap this with this. So say, because if he chose to end his life, he would not be able to due to his disease and just get rid of without help. That will make more sense because reading that out loud and reading that, it's a little bit weird. But grammar concerns, nothing major other than what I said. You have some good analysis with your evidence. And again, that is a really strong sentence. And that's just, it hits you right in the gut. So that's good. But like I said, not like I said, but what I might say is, you know what? No, it doesn't matter because you have some good amount of analysis. It's pretty well buffered out between the two. So this is a good paragraph. All right, so moving on. Okay, so moving on to your next body paragraph. I pulled this up in my Word, and I know this looks like a lot of highlighting, but I want to talk about some of these things. So you have two periods here, and you could just say, on the other end, people think mercy killings are not ethical because they think killing is a sin. You just had a quick punctuation thing there to get rid of. Typically, when it comes to dots, periods, I should say, you will only use one, or you use three, which is known as a, oh my gosh, I can't think what it's called. Okay, I had to look it up. It's an ellipses. That's the three dots. Those are the only times you do it. If you have two, it's fine. Sometimes you have four, but I'm not even going to get into it. So that would make that better. This is good. This sentence is a little bit weird because of how it flows. They believe that they should let the said family members pass on their own time, and they should die when they do, that it should not be compromised by someone else. So this and is a coordinated conjunction that combines two independent clauses. So this does not work as a sentence on its own. It has to be in between. So we don't start our sentences with and. I was thinking a lot about how to make this better. So this is what I would do to make the sentence better. And this is just an example so it flows. They believe that they should let the said family members pass on their own time. Actually, let's make that a comma. And we'll make this in that. And we'll get rid of that. And that they should die when they do. And now we're going to use the colon. It should not be compromised by someone else. This makes it flow a lot better with better punctuation. They believe that they should let the said family members pass on their own time and that they should die when they do. So we have this whole idea. They should die and just pass away when they naturally do. And maybe you even want to put a naturally right there. And then it should not be compromised by someone else. This colon gives further explanation to what's going on before there. So this would work better. And then this is kind of in the first person, but I'm going to let it slide because you're talking generically here. And then when we get down here, what is even the quality of life? Get rid of this. This is kind of an informal. Just say, what is the quality of life? Get rid of the even because this is a lot more firm. What is the quality of life if you are miserable? And I don't know why you have a semicolon. You can just do a comma. Stuck in bed, cannot remember, cannot breathe, or cannot move. Cannot is actually one word. And then as you go on, maybe death is better than living if you are suffering so immensely. So usually, this kind of hypothetical doesn't work. I'm going to tell you why it works for yours. Mercy killing is ethical because wouldn't you want to end someone's suffering if you love them? And actually this should be loved, so we have a verb tense here. Problem. Of them rather than to let them keep suffering. And then, because you're asking a question, leave it as a question. And these are actually two things I'm not a fan of. It doesn't always work in academic writing, but somehow it works for yours. So you kind of have the hypothetical, but then you explain it with a question. And usually and you'll hear this from a lot of people, when I say, if you ask a question in your body paragraphs, you just need to answer it. But you, once again, put this in the reader's shoe. It's ethical because if you love them, you want their suffering to stop. And then if you do want to make it a little bit better, you could just tie in back to your previous paragraph, similar to, oh wait, sorry, this actually isn't your paper. This is. Similar to the mother who killed her son, she did the mercy killing so he wouldn't suffer anymore. And that would make it better. So moving on into your last body paragraph, you have your Anamisa Men example and how this is a mercy killing specifically with dogs. So good use of the text. Now, this paragraph is a little bit shorter, but I think it'll be okay. Your topic sentence, and not the strongest, but it does kind of tie in into your explanation analysis later on. So I'm going to leave that one alone. And then this is what I really appreciate. So you say this connects to real mercy killing. Oh, I wouldn't say real. I would say human. Because we could consider the dog a mercy killing. Unless, I guess it depends on what you mean by real. If you mean real as an extension from, oh, this is a fictional character to real people, or if you mean from a dog to humans. I guess I'm not sure what you mean. So I'll just let it slide because I can see it. This is pretty good. You show their connection because they just realize it is the best if, I think you mean if they stop suffering. So even though you have this dog, you're showing that kind of disparity between, you know, this is a dog, but we have these similar health problems, and this is still related to how we see mercy killing. So this is pretty good. So you have a good example of some analysis, but especially going from your previous body paragraphs into one that is pretty short, it throws your paper off, especially in a 5-paragraph setting. So just something to think about. I think you can add a little bit more analysis. And I will tell you, typically the opposition goes in the 3rd body paragraph, but the way that you transition your paragraphs, this works okay. So I'm not mad about it. Because you go from this, helping someone with a mercy killing, but then others say it's a sin, and then you end with it's out of love, and then go into another example of how it's out of love. I think this actually flows pretty well. So I'm not mad about it because there's not really one singular way to address the opposition. So moving from that into your conclusion. In conclusion, mercy killings are ethical. Good job restating the thesis, but got a random capitalization there. If you really love them, let them go. This them is a little bit vague. Make sure you are specifying what you mean, who you're referring to. If you really love someone who is in pain, let them go. That would make sense. People will not live painlessly forever. If you are truly suffering and want to end your life, need a comma there. That is okay if it cannot be fixed or cured. To let them keep suffering just because you do not want to assist their death is almost humane, more so than helping them pass peacefully. So, this is actually a really powerful statement to end your, sorry if that sounded angry, there's just a fly flying around here as I record this. Anyways, to let them keep suffering just because you don't want to assist their death is almost humane, more so than helping them pass peacefully. This is a really powerful statement because this is a really great way to end your paper, because you are not only being like, yeah, reader, this is a way that it's ethical, you're kind of you are criticizing the opposition in doing so. So that's double good with here. So I really like how you end this. So overall, you do have some grammar concerns that I'm seeing. Intro could be tweaked up a little bit. The way your body paragraphs flow is good. And like I said, let me go back to my Word doc. If you change your middle body paragraph into something more along these lines, and I didn't change everything, but something more along the lines of this, you can pause if you want to look at it. You can see some of the ways that you can do it. But overall, pretty good essay, and I hope this was helpful in you seeing what you need to do in the next time around.